Christopher Paolini's World of Eragon novels are modern epic fantasy that reads like a classic quest with clear stakes, cinematic scenes, and straightforward prose. Across the series, you get wide landscapes, a consistent magic vocabulary, and a satisfying sense of training, travel, and consequence, without needing a huge appendix. This video is spoiler safe. We will focus on how to read the 5 main World of Eragon novels for the best first-time experience, including the newer novel Murtagh. The simplest order is publication-based. Start with Eragon, then Eldest, then Brisingr, then Inheritance, and only then read Murtagh. This order preserves how the world's rules and tone are revealed to the reader. It also keeps your expectations aligned, because later books assume you have absorbed earlier vocabulary and institutions. If you want a minimal commitment test, treat Eragon as your trial run. If you enjoy its mix of wonder and steady pacing, the remaining books build on that same foundation in a more expansive way. In the next sections, I will explain why this order works, what each book feels like to read, and how to pace the series based on your available time. With long fantasy series, the most common problem is not complexity. It is misplaced expectations. Publication order is the author's intended learning curve. You discover the settings, rules, cultures, and the limits of magic in a sequence that gradually raises your comfort level. That is especially important in a series that uses a structured language for magic and names. If you jump around, you can still follow scenes, but you lose the feeling of mastery. Another practical reason is tone calibration. The early book has a clean, approachable adventure rhythm. Later books widen the scope, slow down for training and travel, and spend more time on consequences and strategy. Reading in order makes those shifts feel natural. Finally, publication order protects your emotional pacing. Even without naming events, it is fair to say that the later volumes assume you have lived with the world long enough to care about its risks. If you skip ahead, the series can feel oddly flat, because the foundation is missing. So even if you are mainly here for dragons, battles, or big world building, start at the beginning. It is the fastest way to get the full payoff. If you are rereading, publication order still works best. It keeps the author's style evolution visible, and it prevents you from misremembering what was explained when. That makes your reread feel smoother and less like you are patching gaps. Eragon. This first novel is your gateway to the world of Eragon, and it is designed to be readable even if you have not read much fantasy before. The prose is direct, the chapters move steadily, and the book gives you a clear sense of place, danger, and discovery, without requiring lore homework. You will notice a traditional epic fantasy shape, but the experience is more modern in readability than many older classics. If you are deciding whether the whole 5-book path is worth it, Eragon is the cleanest test because it contains the core ingredients in a self-contained reading experience. Pay attention to how you react to travel sections and learning moments. If you like the feeling of gradually understanding rules and history, you will likely enjoy the sequels even more. Edition note for new readers, you may see different cover styles, anniversary editions, or illustrated options. Those are packaging differences. For your first pass, any standard English text edition works. If you prefer larger print, look for a trade paperback format. If you prefer audio, the series is straightforward to follow because it repeats key terms naturally. The only thing that matters for the reading order is that this comes first. Eldest. The second book is where many readers decide whether they are in for the long haul. It widens the world, increases the amount of time spent on learning and preparation, and introduces a broader sense of politics and alliances. The pacing can feel more layered than the first book, because it is doing 2 jobs at once. It continues the adventure momentum, while also giving you the skill and context you need to appreciate what comes later. If you liked Eragon mainly for its discovery energy, Eldest keeps that feeling, but it also asks for a little more patience. The reward is clarity. By the time you finish, you should feel that you understand the series' baseline rules far better than you did at the end of book 1. That makes the later, bigger set pieces feel earned rather than random. A practical tip: read Eldest with short daily sessions instead of trying to sprint. This reduces the sense of slowdown and keeps the book's many moving parts in your head. If you finish Eldest and feel satisfied, you have basically cleared the series' main commitment hurdle. The remaining books will feel like progress rather than homework. Brisingr, Book 3 is often described as the hinge of the original 4-book arc. The series has taught you how the world functions, so this volume spends less time explaining and more time applying. For many readers, that means the experience becomes more immersive. Scenes can run longer, and the book is comfortable lingering on logistics, craft, and the consequences of choices. The key mindset for Brisingr is that it is not trying to be a quick sprint. It is trying to deepen the sense that this world has weight. If you come in expecting constant escalation, you might feel resistance. If you come in expecting a steady build and a more mature tone, it lands well. If you are reading the series as your first big fantasy project, Brisingr is where you can start using a simple note system. Just track unfamiliar terms for a day or 2, then stop. The book naturally reuses what matters. Most readers do not need a glossary, they just need a calm pace. Finish this volume and you will be perfectly positioned for the long final stretch of the original cycle. Inheritance. This is the largest book in the core cycle, and it tends to feel like a culmination. Because of that, it can also feel dense. The best way to enjoy it is to treat it like a season of television rather than a single binge. Plan for multiple sittings, and let chapters breathe. The writing assumes you know the world's rules and the moral landscape by now, so it focuses on payoff, resolution energy, and the cost of long choices. A useful approach is to keep your reading sessions consistent. Even 20 minutes a day keeps momentum. If you are using audio, consider slightly slower playback for the first hour, then return to your normal speed once your ear is back in the vocabulary. If you are worried about spoilers from fan conversations online, the safest strategy is simple. Do not search character names or quotes until you are done with this book. The title is common, and search engines can surface major discussion snippets. After you finish, you will have a complete arc for the original 4 novels. At that point, you can either pause, or you can continue into the newer World of Eragon novel with confidence. Murtagh. This newer novel is best read after the original 4 books, even though it is approachable on its own. The reason is reader context. The book assumes you recognize the world's institutions and the aftertaste of a long conflict, and it does not want to stop for introductions. That is a feature, not a barrier. When you read it last, you can enjoy the feeling of returning to a familiar landscape with fresh perspective. Think of Murtagh as a follow-up that refreshes the setting rather than a 5th step in the same structure. The pacing is more modern. It tends to be tighter, with a clearer focus. It also works well as a re-entry point if you read the original series years ago and want something that feels current without forcing a full reread first. If you do want a full reread, keep the same order: Eragon, Eldest, Brisingr, Inheritance, then Murtagh. This keeps terminology consistent and preserves the sense that the world expands in layers. The biggest mistake people make is treating Murtagh like a shortcut into the universe. You can do it, but you will miss the series' intended learning curve, and the emotional texture will be thinner. When you buy fantasy series, the hidden goal is not collecting, it is finishing. So choose a format that reduces friction. If you read mostly at night, consider an ebook so you can keep font size comfortable and avoid fatigue. If you commute, audio is a strong option because the World of Eragon uses repeated terms that settle in quickly. If you love maps and visual reference, look for editions that include clear front matter, but do not treat that as required. You will also see multiple English editions, and sometimes you will see differences in cover branding across publishers. That can make it look like you are buying the wrong book. The simplest rule is this: match the book title and author, and keep the same format across the series if you can. Consistent formatting helps your brain treat it as one continuous project. Another sanity rule is to avoid mixing abridged and unabridged audio. For most major releases today, unabridged is standard, but always confirm. If you are buying for long-term rereads, hardcovers hold up well. If you want the best value, trade paperbacks are usually the sweet spot. And if you are choosing only one purchase today, buy Eragon first. It tells you whether this world is for you. A 5-book fantasy plan works best when you set a pace that fits your life. Here is a simple approach that keeps progress steady. Start with a 2-week trial on Eragon. Read a fixed number of pages per day, not a fixed amount of time. Pages are easier to measure. If you finish and want more, give yourself a 1-day break. Then start Eldest with the same daily page target. For many readers, Eldest and Brisingr feel best at a slightly slower pace. That is not a flaw. It is how you keep details fresh. If you notice your attention slipping, shorten sessions instead of skipping days. 10 minutes daily is better than an hour once a week. For Inheritance, think in chunks. Set a goal like 100 pages per week. That lets you finish in a month or 2 without turning it into a grind. Once you complete the original cycle, decide what you want from Murtagh. If you want a clean return visit, read it within a few weeks. If you want it to feel like a new season, wait a month, then come back with fresh appetite. The point is consistency, not speed. A practical trick is to pair the books with a stable routine. Read the first 10 pages with coffee, or listen to one chapter during a walk. This turns a long series into a repeating habit, which is usually the difference between finishing and stalling. Most people who bounce off this series make one of 3 avoidable mistakes. First, they try to start in the middle because they think the first book is only for younger readers. In practice, book 1 is the foundation. If you skip it, you lose the language of the world, and the series feels more generic. Second, they sprint the longest books, then blame the writing for feeling tiring. A steady pace is the fix. Third, they treat the new novel Murtagh as an alternative entry point. It is not written to teach the basics. It is written to assume them. Another mistake is over-researching. People search for reading orders, then accidentally see spoiler-heavy timelines. You do not need a timeline. The order is already built into the publication sequence. Finally, avoid mixing formats without a reason. Switching between audio and print can be fine, but do it at clear boundaries. Finish a book in one format, then switch for the next. That keeps names and invented words consistent in your mind. If you follow these simple rules, the series reads smoothly, and the commitment feels manageable. If you want the safest, lowest confusion plan, read the World of Eragon novels in publication order. Eragon first as the entry and commitment test, then Eldest, Brisingr, and Inheritance to complete the original arc, then Murtagh as the Return to the World bonus. If you are undecided, make a single decision today. Choose a format you will actually use, buy or borrow Eragon, and give it a fair trial of 5 reading sessions. If the world clicks for you, the rest of the plan is simple, because you are never choosing between multiple branches. You are just continuing. In the description of this video, I will list the 5 books in order so you can copy the list into your reading app. If you want a shorter reminder, check the 2 shorts linked from this long guide. They summarize the order and the most common mistake in under a minute, without spoilers. If you are coming from other big fantasy series, keep expectations realistic. The early chapters are designed to teach you the cadence of this world. Let them do that job. Do not rush past names, and do not pause to look everything up. The series repeats what matters, and the rhythm becomes easy once you have heard key terms a few times. When you finish the last page of Inheritance, decide whether you want closure or curiosity. If you want closure, take a short break and stop there. If you want curiosity, go straight into Murtagh while the world is still vivid. Either choice is valid. The main win is that you completed a full epic sequence, and you can now recommend it with confidence.